Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to our fourth and final day of Thesis presentations. And today we are starting off with Laynie Hamberlin. She is going to be speaking on the indoctrination of children, how the LGBTQ community is attacking young audiences. If you would please go ahead and silence your cell phones. I should have said that to start. Laynie has been working with Cammie Burkhalter as her mentor through this process, and Cammie is going to pray for Laynie, and then we will get started.
Pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you right now and lift up Laynie. God, I just pray that you would give her a spirit of peace right now and calmness. Lord, I just pray that she would speak from her heart. God, she is ready. And I just lift her up to you. Lord, I just thank you for her work on this hard topic. But I thank you for her passion for doing what is right in the Lord's eyes. So we just give this time to her. I just pray, Father, that you would speak through her. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
He alone who owns the youth gains the future. When Adolf Hitler spoke these words at a Nazi party rally in 1935, his dream of a great Aryan nation was yet unfulfilled. During Hitler's reign, the Nazi regime used various methods to indoctrinate children, aiming to instill Nazi ideology and loyalty to the regime. Hitler infiltrated the education system, instituted youth social clubs, and encouraged group recreational activities that emphasized belonging and community. All the while, he was undermining the traditional European Protestant worldview and subtly replacing Judeo-Christian values with a twisted Aryan vision of a new civilization. By targeting the children, Hitler knew exactly what he was doing, boldly stating in 1933, quote, "When an opponent declares, 'I will not come over to your side,' I calmly say, 'Your child belongs to us already. What are you? You will pass on. Your descendants, however, now stand in the new camp. In a short time, they will know nothing else but this new community," end quote. Hitler knew exactly what he was doing, and most would agree his methods were tragically successful. He knew the best way to change the future was to indoctrinate the young, the most susceptible, the most ignorant, and the most innocent, the children. Hitler, along with the Nazis, viewed Jews as a threat to the German racial community and desired to eradicate the race as a whole. They were viewed as outcasts solely based on their appearance, which later led to persecution of the Jewish people. Much like Hitler's plan to eradicate the Jewish race, the LGBTQ agenda seeks to eradicate the traditional family unit, and much like Hitler, they are starting with the children. For decades, LGBTQ activists have worked to create a body of supportive individuals where all sexual orientations and gender identities are accepted. But now, these activists push the agenda on children, which poses a threat to American parents. Similar to Hitler's indoctrination tactics, LGBTQ activists hit young audiences by glorifying their ways of thinking. Love is love. Celebrate your differences. The future is trans. End discrimination. Show your pride. By presenting their actions as normal, individuals involved within the LGBTQ community lead children down a dangerous path. For God said, quote, "Do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord," end quote. Today, our world is failing at raising children to lead a generation that follows Christian morals. Instead of leading children down a path of discipline and instruction, LGBTQ activists lead children down a path of sin and destruction. Whether it be imprinted on folded t-shirts at the store, vocalized in educational settings, or hidden in family movies and television shows, innocent children are exposed to LGBTQ topics almost daily, which imposes negative effects on their mental and emotional well-being. "20 years ago, parents could stroll through their favorite store with their children without the anxiety of encountering messaging that contradicted the family values they imparted at home. Even magazines featuring adult-themed covers were hidden in brown paper, recognizing the need to shield children from inappropriate content. But sadly, this is no longer the reality. Today's parent must maintain a vigilant watch for messaging displayed openly on store shelves, messaging that contradicts Christian teachings or simply is unsuitable for young audiences." In May of 2023, Target, one of the world's most popular retail chains, partnered with satanic trans artist Eric Carnell to create a collection that would leave many parents in shock. Rather than featuring kid-friendly messages, the collection showcased clothing and accessories that emphasized LGBTQ empowerment, acceptance, and sexualities, which were targeted at children as young as newborns. Throughout the month of May, the youth clothing section at Target overflowed with products calling children to support the movement. One particular item that stood shocking to most was an infant onesie with the slogan, quote, "Trans people will always exist," end quote. Although the geometric shapes and lettering on the products were visually appealing, the LGBTQ agenda was undeniably apparent. Eric Carnell's Pride collection received a wave of backlash as the propaganda campaign failed to impress many parents. In fact, families posted on social media demanding Target to obliterate the collection as a whole. The level of risk undertaken by LGBTQ advocates astonished both Christian and non-Christian families as they continue to pursue their cause beyond children's clothing. In addition to apparel, Target stores across America began stocking children's books that focus on the topic of sexuality. One book, titled Bye Bye Binary, depicts an infant who refuses to conform to traditional gender normalities. Throughout the book, the infant chooses to wear both bow ties and bows, identifies as both a princess and a knight, and opts for both pink and blue blankets. Although presented in a comedic, fun, and colorful manner to children, the underlying message implies that one can embrace both genders simultaneously, which leads to confusion. And while there is nothing wrong with a child expressing a fondness for different colors or dressing up in traditional gender-specific roles, the problem arises when a child is led to believe that they can alter their gender identity in spite of societal normalities. As Target faced harsh criticism from concerned parents, another major retail corporation began stocking its shelves with products aimed at promoting LGBTQ topics. Just prior to Target's launch, Walmart, America's leading grocery chain, introduced its Pride and Joy collection, featuring designs by Latin artist Bianca Negron, a strong supporter of the LGBTQ community. Similar to Eric Carnell's clothing line, Bianca's collection featured toddler t-shirts and onesies embellished with the messages such as, quote, "I love my two moms and love will win," end quote, in bold, vibrant colors. Bianca Negron's clothing items aim to celebrate same-sex marriage and encourage children to reject discrimination against the LGBTQ community. And while Walmart sales continued to rise, Target experienced a massive loss of revenue, losing a whopping $14 billion. One article mentions that Eric Carnell foresaw the response from the public, stating, quote, "I am not naive. I absolutely knew that there would be negativity thrown my way. I understand that people are incredibly passionate with their hatred towards LGBTQ people, and the current political climate is one that tells those people that they are correct to feel that way, end quote. Eric Carnell was unaware of the true problem at hand. Although many U.S. families did, in fact, criticize the artist's collection, their concern was not about politics, as it was about the mental health of their children, the true victims. Following Carnell's remark on public reaction, Target CEO Brian Cornell expressed that involving LGBTQ artists in the production of children's products promoted equality and community within their stores, a trait that society often lacks. And while many LGBTQ advocates supported Carnell's standpoint, it ultimately resulted in loss of trust from parents. At the end of the day, exposing children to both complex and inappropriate matters does not benefit a child in any way. In Corrie ten Boom's The Hiding Place, Corrie's father puts it as this, quote, "It would be a pretty poor father who would ask his little girl to carry such a load. It's the same way, Corrie, with knowledge. Some knowledge is too heavy for children. When you are older and stronger, you can bear it. For now, you must trust me to carry it for you," end quote. Children's minds are still developing. Therefore, it is not appropriate for them to be exposed to LGBTQ topics at a young age. Children should feel safe and secure, and exposing them to information that reaches beyond their level of understanding can cause confusion and overwhelm them. Advocates within the community must recognize that many American families have different beliefs and values regarding LGBTQ issues. Thus, it is not appropriate to impose any particular viewpoint on young children. A child's developmental stage should be respected and not taken advantage of. At one time, libraries were considered safe spaces where children could escape reality, indulge in fairy tales, and explore far-off lands through their imaginations. Similarly, schools were spaces where children did not have to worry about addressing teachers and classmates with the appropriate pronouns. These spaces were highly valued by parents and widely trusted. However, this trust has been ravaged due to the increasing involvement of the LGBTQ community in the education of children. In American libraries and schools today, adults are actively presenting inappropriate topics that reach far beyond a child's comprehension level, thus putting children at risk. In 2015, San Francisco introduced its program, Drag Story Hour, in which drag performers read books to children in libraries, schools, and other public spaces. The event was created by literary arts organizer Michelle T. and Radar Productions, a nonprofit literary arts organization. Since 2015, Drag Story Hour has spread to other cities around the world. Co-founder Jonathan Hamill has established 35 branches in the United States and 5 overseas. The program's website explains, quote, "In spaces like this, kids are able to see people who defy rigid gender restrictions and imagine a world where everyone can be their authentic selves," end quote. However, many U.S. families argue that the program introduces complex themes and language that is not appropriate for young children. For this reason, concerns have been raised about the program's suitability for its intended audience. The Drag Story Hour website features a wide variety of books that are read to children, including This Day in June, written by Gail E. Pittman, which celebrates Pride Month and depicts same-sex marriage and children participating in protests. The book's colorful illustrations, pink hearts, and LGBTQ flags may draw children in, but many argue that introducing Pride celebrations may be inappropriate for young children. As such, some parents and community members have raised concerns about the Drag Story Hour program's potential impact on young audiences. In an effort to repel the influence of Drag Story Hour, Christian movie star, filmmaker, and author Kirk Cameron published his book, As You Grow, in December of 2022. The book teaches children how to gain wisdom through the fruits of the Spirit. Cameron sought to promote his book in libraries that offer Drag Story Hour, namely Rochambeau Public Library in Providence, Rhode Island, but was met with rejection and criticism as his Christian values did not align with those of the libraries. William Wolfe, senior official in the Trump administration, notes, quote, Kirk Cameron cannot reach scores of American children or their families in many U.S. cities via the public library system, because over 50 public libraries have either outright rejected him or not responded to requests on his behalf, end quote. Cameron's dispute with the libraries was taken to the media, forcing libraries to reverse their decisions or go public with their LGBTQ favoritism. Responding to Cameron, a staff member from the Rhode Island Library remarked, quote, "We are a very queer-friendly library. Our messaging does not align. You can fill out the form to reserve space, to run the program in our space, but we won't run your program," end quote. Although certain libraries initially declined Cameron's request, but later reconsidered, others assert that they never refused him in the first place. The question remains, if the LGBTQ community values freedom of speech, why do they continue to exclude Christians from libraries across the country? The reality is that members of the community do not want children exposed to literature that is not aligned with their personal values, particularly if the book promotes Christianity, which they view as a threat to their community. In addition to libraries, another educational space is exposing young minds to adult themes. In October 2023, Fox News announced that Los Angeles, one of the largest school districts in the nation, began celebrating National Coming Out Day, a holiday recognized by many individuals within the LGBTQ community. Throughout the week, Los Angeles teachers encouraged students to participate in activities promoting pride agendas and gender inclusivity. The celebration included a week of action toolkit, which provided lesson plans and activities focused on LGBTQ-related topics. Elementary school teachers even encouraged children to create drawings that reflected their gender, identity, race, sexuality, and religion. Responding to the issue, American journalist Megyn Kelly addresses the situation on her YouTube channel, joined by Dr. Miriam Grossman, a psychiatrist, public speaker, and author of the book Lost in Trans Nation, which highlights the atrocities of children altering their bodies. In the video, Kelly discusses two famous transgender individuals whom Los Angeles teachers reportedly discussed with elementary school students during National Coming Out Week. The primary figure Kelly and Grossman focus on is Jazz Jennings, an American YouTuber, television personality, spokesmodel, and LGBTQ rights activist. Kelly reveals that Jennings, a boy who identifies as a girl, documents his numerous surgeries on his reality TV show, I Am Jazz. Dr. Grossman highlights a scene from Jazz's show in which Jazz expresses his desire to be himself to his mother. The psychiatrist also analyzes a scene from Jazz's book, also titled I Am Jazz, where he claims to have a girl's brain in a boy's body. In response, Grossman states, quote, "That is not possible. We are not Legos. We are not Mr. Potato Heads that can be improperly assembled," end quote. She goes on to argue that by promoting these falsehoods, we are indoctrinating children and leading them down a dangerous path, which is correct. According to Williams Institute, a leading research center on sexual orientation and gender identity law, approximately 300,000 youth ages between 13 and 17 years old identify as transgender in the United States, which is double from a previous estimate taken in 2016 and 2017. Miriam Grossman notes that LGBTQ activists are enticing children with the promise that transitioning will evoke happiness, popularity, and authenticity in their lives, which is simply not true. At the end of Kelly's video, Dr. Grossman emphasizes the importance of parents communicating with their children about gender identity before other sources do. In the United States today, according to the psychiatrist, it is crucial to convey the message that, quote, yes, we are all either boys or girls, and we are either a boy or a girl from the first moment that we ever existed. It is not a random hit or miss designation that is made in the delivery room by a doctor or nurse, end quote. Grossman believes parents should teach children that gender is permanent and wonderful. There are different ways to be a boy or a girl, and it is important to celebrate the unique mosaic of male and female traits without harming the body. In conclusion, Dr. Grossman stresses the critical role that parents play in teaching their children about gender identity. She emphasizes the need to reach children early before they are exposed to harmful falsehoods and before other influences can take hold. Ultimately, children should not be educated on sexual topics. As guardians of their children, parents should have control over what their children are exposed to in educational settings, not LGBTQ advocates. American libraries and schools overstep their bounds by introducing children to inappropriate topics related to sexuality and gender identity. And while it is important to provide children with comprehensive education, parents should have a say in what enters their child's brain. The responsibility should not lie in the hands of LGBTQ advocates. Across the United States, families have enjoyed the nostalgic shows of Disney and Nickelodeon, filled with themes of love, laughter, education, and livelihood. However, the television industry has since incorporated an element of gender inclusivity and discrimination in children's programming, providing a platform for LGBTQ activists to promote their cause to young viewers. For many years, Disney has held a fantastic reputation as one of the most sensational and enchanting media corporations, captivating audiences through its thrilling and imaginative world. However, while this still remains true, the company's recently developed platform, Disney Plus, actively releases children's movies and shows with an emphasis on LGBTQ topics, leaving parents with the responsibility of supervising their child's screen when accessing the platform. Sydney Starkey, 23-year-old editor-in-chief of Christian ministry organization The Revolution, remarks, quote, "When I was a little girl, I dreamed of one day being Cinderella. I would sit riveted in front of the TV as I watched my favorite Disney princess experience her happily ever after. Castles and fairy tales, glass slippers and princes took up my 5-year-old brain space, and I was lost in the innocence and wonder of it all. The power fairy tales have upon young minds is nearly as strong as the power of the enchantress to cast a spell upon the prince in Beauty and the Beast. But sadly, Disney knows the impression media has upon children, and innocence and wonder are words that no longer describe the formerly family-friendly company," end quote. Sydney raises a concern due to Disney's transparency in its efforts to expose children to content pertaining to the LGBTQ agenda. In 2022, Carrie Burke, Disney's entertainment president, publicly stated her primary objective in one article: to ensure 50% of Disney production characters reflect the LGBTQ community by the end of the year. While Burke's goal has yet to be achieved, Disney's current pace of filmmaking suggests that Carrie's vision may become a reality in the near future. On June 17, 2023, Disney Plus released the new animated film Lightyear, a spin-off of Disney's 1995 classic Toy Story. The film features a lesbian couple who greet each other with a kiss, marking a significant step towards queer representation in children's media. However, Lightyear is not the first Disney production to showcase LGBTQ characters. In the 2020 mystical film Onward, a policewoman named Officer Spectre mentions her girlfriend, emphasizing same-sex relationships to young audiences. Disney's commitment to promoting LGBTQ representation in children's media continues with new releases like Strange World, which features the company's first gay lead character in an animated film. Additionally, a growing number of Disney movies today celebrate queer, transgender, and homosexual characters while rejecting traditional family structures. The list of productions is extensive, reflecting Disney's ongoing efforts to showcase inappropriate topics to young children. Carol Markowitz, columnist at Fox News, The New York Post, and author of her best-selling book, Stolen Youth, expresses, quote, "What Disney doesn't understand is that pushing gender dysphoria onto younger children will never be popular among the very people who make up Disney's core audience, families," end quote. The belief that parents hold the responsibility to guide their children through such discussions is justified. Media platforms endorsing narratives that could potentially harm societal values should not be in the position to mold the perspectives of children nationwide. Disney is well aware of the significant impact media can have on malleable minds, who are curious and eager to absorb information about the world around them. While Disney's Pride productions raise concerns about potential harm to children, other popular platforms have risen to the expectation of promoting gender inclusivity and diversity in children's media. 2 years ago, Nickelodeon's Blue's Clues and You, a spin-off of the nostalgic television series Blue's Clues, posted a video on their YouTube channel, leaving many families shocked. The video featured an animated version of Nina West, an American drag queen, singing a rendition of Johnny Comes Marching Home, with a shocking new twist. As Nina sings, animals on floats wave LGBTQ flags behind her, representing diverse families that make up the LGBTQ community. Each float depicts multiple relationships, including 2 alligator moms, 2 grizzly bear dads, and a variety of animals identifying as different genders. The Blue's Clues and You Pride Parade appears fun and lighthearted. However, it normalizes and promotes LGBTQ lifestyles to young viewers, compromising their innocence. Heather Tomlinson, freelance journalist and contributor to Premier Christianity magazine, emphasizes, quote, "The subject of hypersexualization of our society and our children is an urgent one," end quote. While Disney and Nickelodeon have made strides in promoting inclusivity in their productions, they have far reached limits by glorifying LGBTQ families, potentially leading children to believe gender is fluid, a belief that contradicts biblical truth. As Genesis 1:27 states, quote, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them," end quote. The Lord created 2 genders, not 20, 30, or 40. As these platforms continue to gain popularity, parents must recognize the importance of guiding their children with the truth and knowledge of the Lord, not of this world. And while safeguarding children beyond their homes presents a notable challenge, there are viable strategies to address this issue. The initial component of my solution is a call for increased parent engagement within their children's educational settings, which involves parents actively presenting their requests and concerns to school boards. Increased parent involvement within schools that support the LGBTQ community would create a platform for parents to voice their opinions on topics presented within the classroom. Supporters of the LGBTQ community ask that we respect them, but what about other beliefs? In schools nationwide, many students grow up in households that hold different beliefs than those of fellow students. Therefore, it is essential for educators to honor and respect these differing views without imposing their own. By acknowledging the significance of respecting individual beliefs and encouraging more parent participation in educational settings, we can create a more secure environment for all students. Yet, the question remains, how can we safeguard our children's innocence at home? Very few parents are aware of freefiltering.org, a web filtering service rooted in Christian values. The website aims to shield children from online content that promotes evil, clinging to the belief that, quote, innocent eyes should stay that way, end quote. The platform emphasizes its mission and dedication to the welfare of children, emphasizing the importance of maintaining their purity in a digital age. With the help of artificial intelligence, free filtering can detect each new site that promotes evil so that it is blocked before it even loads and reaches children's eyes. In a world swallowed by sin, children need a platform that guards their souls from the many dangers that lie within screens, which is exactly what this website provides. Free filtering brings hope to parents, creating a safer environment for their child, while also sharing the good news of Jesus throughout their page. As external influences continue to hit young audiences and grow their community, the best thing we can do as Christians is pray. Pray for LGBTQ activists, that they may reflect and recognize the harm in pushing a detrimental agenda upon children. Pray for fellow Christians, that each of us would show humility, compassion, and love rather than hatred towards these individuals. And finally, I pray for parents, that they would recognize the importance of nurturing their children with truth and wisdom as they grow into young men and women. If we pray continuously, depend on the Lord, and make practical steps within our daily lives, we can better shield these precious souls from the voices that fill them with lies. It is my hope that not only LGBTQ activists, but everyone would recognize the true value of a child's innocence. That innocence is not something borrowed or merely temporary, but a divine gift from the Lord, a gift that should be protected and cherished. Thank you.
Laynie will now take questions from the panel, and then in a moment I will open up questioning to the audience.
Laynie, that was a hard topic. You did a great job of drawing that out. Thank you for doing that. This is certainly not a new issue. You know, the Apostle Paul talks a lot about living in a world that looks different than believers, and even Solomon said, teach a child the way that he should go. So that is something we get. But we're in a day where the government is doing things proactively against us as believing parents. So you talked about libraries that get out there and promote this intentionally. Well, that's our dollars at work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a role for us as believers to use the courts to block some of this stuff? Have you come across examples of that?
Of Christian leaders like standing up
fighting
against
back using the legal system, right?
Mm-hmm.
To block using our money to promote a worldview that is so drastically different than what we've had as a nation for 200 plus years.
I haven't really found a lot of that in my research, but I will say in my research, and just in general, even before I picked this topic, I haven't really seen a lot of Christian leaders standing up to the issue or really addressing the issue at all. They kind of keep quiet and steer away from the issue because I think they are scared that for the hate towards Christians, because there's all this hate towards Christians and their beliefs, because individuals involved within the LGBTQ community believe that all Christians hate those individuals, which is just not true. So I haven't really seen a lot of Christian leaders stand up against the problem.
Good job, Laynie.
Thank you.
What if the, I don't know if in your research, if the LGBTQ community could hit fast forward and get the society that they wanted, what would they want it to look like? I guess what would they want it to look like?
I think they would want, obviously acceptance for all. Like they would want everyone to be on board with their beliefs, which is just, it's never going to happen. Nobody's ever going to agree with what you believe, just like nobody agrees with what Christian believes, what atheists believe, what Muslims believe. I think that the LGBTQ community keeps pushing this agenda on so many people because they're hoping that one day everyone is going to be accepting of what they value, which is acceptance for all. And I just think that that isn't reality, that no one's ever going to be on board with that. So,
Thank you.
mm-hmm.
Good job, Laynie.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Mhm.
So, as a country, we're a Judeo-Christian society, so the idea of traditional marriage, I was raised in the 70s, and that was still pretty normal. So where have we I'm not even talking about for the believer, just our moral compass as a country, just general right and wrong. Where do you think we kind of lost that and have allowed sort of these extreme views to come in and be the main thing? Like we're sort of, like we heard at CrossCon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the idol of our generation is this movement.
Right.
That was said by one of the speakers, whether you disagree or not. But what you're saying is this is a true thing, right? That we're being forced to. So just tell me a little bit, where do you think we've kind of started losing that in our country? If you did any research just historically on the past few decades or what you learned in school.
So in my paper, I kind of talk about how in 2016 and 2017, I think now there's about 300,000 youth ages between the age of 13 and 17 that now identify as transgender, and that has doubled since 2016 and 2017. I feel like around those years, I feel like people who were on the fence about being gay or not, they still were trying to hide it. It wasn't really glorified yet. And so I think around those years, I feel like that's really when they started pushing this agenda, oh, it's okay to be gay, and it just has gradually built up to now. And I think, because when we were little, they never talked about this stuff on TV, not that really I saw. And even back then we had DVDs, so there weren't really advertisements all in your face of the LGBTQ community. And I talk about in my paper how now there's all these different platforms and just everything's right in your face now. And so I think it's just gradually, since around 2015, around then, it's just built up and just gradually become more and more glorified.
Okay, great. And my last question is, so you're going to college
Yes.
pretty soon. Tell me how this paper and this research has prepared you to kind of go out into the world, literally on a secular, public, wherever I don't know, you haven't decided yet, unless you want to reveal that right now. But how's this preparing, whether you're on a Christian campus or not, you're going to be in a different kind of environment. So just tell me a little bit how you feel if you feel like this has prepared you and just in terms of your view.
I think it has definitely taught me that I can show respect and love towards those people while also not agreeing with their moral values. And because I never want to come across as like I'm hating the community, because I just think that puts a bad taste in their mouth about Christians. They already have a bad taste in their mouth about Christians, and I just wouldn't want to build that. And so I think this paper has really taught me that I can show love while also not agreeing with what they believe.
Great job, Laynie.
Thank you.
What surprised you the most through your research?
Yes, so really everything that I researched was very alarming to me, but I think I have two things that were very surprising to me. One, the Los Angeles celebrating the National Coming Out Day. They took a week to celebrate that with elementary school students, and that just was really shocking and really just disgusting to me, because I can't imagine, like, I have 2 younger brothers at home, and I can't imagine like sexual topics being glorified to them like in that way. And that whole thing just really was shocking to me. I think another thing that was alarming to me were the infant onesies in Target that had those, awful slogans. Trans people will always exist. I love my 2 moms. Just glorifying like the whole same-sex marriage aspect to children who can't even talk or form their own decisions. And so those were like 2 of the main things that really stuck out to me that were shocking.
Okay, Laynie will now take questions from the audience as well.
Good job, Laynie.
Thank you.
You talked about many companies like Target and Walmart and stuff. So I'd like to know what you think a solution is for Christians, families that have our values, as to how we interact with those companies at this point if they continue on with the message that they're trying to send.
Yes, so that was a really hard thing I was battling with, like during my solution. It's kind of hard to put a stop to that because, we aren't really in control with what the stores put on their shelves and everything. But I think, like I said, we can definitely speak out about the problem more, just through the media and on the news and stuff. I think we definitely need to speak up. I think also, just shield your children as much as you can. If it's like June, which is Pride Month, and you're going to the grocery store, maybe don't let your children come with you to the grocery store when you're going then. Just anything you can do to shield them, I would do that. But other than that, it is really hard to shield your kids from things in stores because it's just constantly in your face and you're not really in control of that. I would also say just always make sure you're telling your kid the truth and knowledge of like the Lord and what is biblical and what is true. Because I think that plays a big part in how they grow into young men and women.
Great job, Laynie.
Thank you.
Of course, this grieves us as parents,
Mm-hmm.
when we hear you speak like this, because we want you to be excited going out into the world,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to face this. So how does this make your faith more solid?
More solid. I think that, like I was saying earlier, I think that it has really taught me that there are, like I was saying earlier, like there are going to be other people that have your different beliefs. And I think it has grown my faith because in the Bible, Jesus always came across people who were bashing him for like what he said and stuff, but he always showed love to those people. And I think that aspect has really grown my faith throughout this process.
All right, Laynie, excellent job. You are done.
Oh yeah, I got it. The lower column.